All right, A minor pentatonic and A minor Dorian. What's the difference between the two? All right, it's hard enough in the beginning playing your pentatonics and organizing all that, but suddenly when you're trying to figure out the modes and the major scales, that adds even more notes in. Now, what's the difference between A minor pentatonic and A minor Dorian? There's only a 2-note difference between the two, but navigating through it and understanding the theory can be very confusing. Now, in the first half of this video, I'm just going to give you some practice concepts and the shapes that you can play and practice, and I'll give you a couple licks to practice also. Then in the second half of the video, I'll explain the theory behind it, okay? So today, the shape I'm going to show you, the pentatonic at the 5th fret, the A minor pentatonic at the 5th fret, and then the A minor Dorian at the 5th fret. Okay, there's only a 2-note difference between the two, but let's look at both of them. So we know the A minor pentatonic already. Now let's play the A minor Dorian at the 5th fret. All right, the first clue is that when you see somebody playing a modal type lick versus a pentatonic lick, the way I usually look at it is if you see somebody playing 2 fingers, they're playing pentatonic. If they start going into like 3 fingers like that, usually it's a mode or a major scale. That's a good way to look at it. You know, if you see somebody out playing and you notice the difference, sometimes they're in 2 fingers, and sometimes they're using 3 fingers. That's kind of the difference, and it will give you a clue into what they're doing. Now, notice that the A minor pentatonic, very straightforward. But suddenly, when I played A minor Dorian, I added in the B, and then the F sharp, and then the B again, All right, so there's your first little clue into the difference, and it really helps to understand the two kind of superimposed over each other. Now, you still want to play the pentatonic stuff that you know, the bends and the blues licks, lead licks, however you play it. But then you can start adding in these extra notes. Now, the chord that you would play these licks over would be A minor, which I'll explain later where that comes from. It comes from a particular major scale. So let's look at one way to start practicing it is maybe go up the pentatonic to the 4th fret and then shift back to the F sharp. Kind of sounds like Santana right there. Now, do it to the B. Now let's go down even farther. Now I'll go all the way to the 1st string. All right, that's one way you can practice it just to get started with it. Have an A minor chord played behind you, whether it's on the keyboard or use your looping pedal, okay? And I'll give you some examples in a minute with the keyboard, with the A minor sound behind it. Now, another way you can practice it is with bends. Now, the first pentatonic bend that we usually talk about is at the 7th fret on the 3rd string within this A minor pentatonic form. Now you would do a whole step bend and then shift back to that B now I'll go all the way down to the F sharp with it. That's a cool sound. There were some pull-offs there. All right, now let's look at the bend on the second string. Whole step bend. Normal pentatonic note at the 5th fret on the second string, and then I go into the F sharp right there. Stuff like that always reminds me of Oye Como Va by Santana, because that's what he's playing in there. And then on the first string bend, going into the B there. Now notice I resolved into that A. That is part of how you create that modal sound and keep it over A minor, even though we're playing a borrowed major scale, which I'll talk about in a little while. Now, another thing you need to look at is what happens when we add in the B and the F sharp is all of a sudden you're able to have a couple half-step bends. Like right here at this 7th fret 2nd string, F sharp into G. B into C on the 1st string. There was a half-step bend on the 3rd string at the 4th fret, the B into the C. All right, so let me play a couple things, a couple of the practice techniques. I'll get the keyboard going, just an A minor chord using a sustain pedal. And then you'll hear how it fits over it, and I'll resolve into the chord tones of A minor, but I'll also resolve into the F sharp and the B, which gives some cool sounds. All right, here's the A minor. So I'll start with that first thing I showed you. Kind of Pink Floyd-ish. Here's some of those half-step bends. Right, so I resolved into that A there. Now let's do some of the whole step bends. I'll do the whole step bend into the F sharp. Now when I play that right there, that's an E minor triad. Those are other things that the Dorian scale creates, are some of the arpeggios that are borrowed from that harmonized scale, which I'll talk more about in a few minutes. Let me play a couple more things, get the keyboard sound going again. I'll add the blue note in. Lots of fun stuff there, and it does take a while to be able to play this stuff, depending on your level. Now, where does this theory come from? How do we rationalize what A minor Dorian is? First, you have to ask yourself, where in the order of the modes is Dorian? And the answer to that is the second mode, okay? Now, for A minor Dorian, we have to ask, A minor is the second chord in what major scale? So what you have to do is go back a whole step from A. And the answer is G, okay? So really, it's derived from the G major scale. So if you notice, when I played the A minor Dorian in that fifth position, especially in this area, that's the clue. If you know your major scales, you know that comes from this G major scale right here, starting at the 3rd fret. Suddenly we're in that 4th fret on the 4th string. Notice how I went back to that A right there. So let me play the A minor chord one more time, and I'll just play the G major scale over it. That's enough information for now. Try to practice some of these concepts. It's a lot of fun to mix the pentatonic with the Dorian. Dorian is one of my favorite modes, and there's so many great songs that have Dorian type jams on them. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and definitely hit the subscribe button, and I'll be posting more on this subject soon.